There's only one bed, the motel clerk said. The CEO looked at the young girl and took the chair. There's only one bed left. The motel clerk said it like an apology, but Lily Brooks heard it like a warning. Outside, Colorado had disappeared beneath a wall of snow. Wind slammed against the windows of the little roadside motel, rattling the glass hard enough to make the neon vacancy sign flicker like it was reconsidering its life choices. Lily stood at the counter with wet hair, frozen fingers, and a backpack that held almost everything she owned. Behind her, a man in a dark overcoat brushed snow from his shoulders. He was tall, quiet, expensive-looking in a way that made Lily immediately distrust him. The motel clerk, Martha Green, sighed and pushed her glasses up her nose. "Highways closed both directions," Martha said. "Tow trucks are backed up. State troopers are yelling at everybody, and I've got one room left, one queen bed, no sofa." Lily's stomach tightened. "I'll sleep in my car." Martha looked out the window at Lily's small sedan, already half buried in snow. "Honey, that car looks like a sad cupcake." "I'll be fine." "No, you'll be frozen. There's a difference." The man behind her spoke for the first time. "She can have the room." His voice was calm, low, controlled, the kind of voice people used when they were accustomed to being listened to. Lily turned. "I didn't ask you." "No," he said. "You didn't." That annoyed her more than it should have. Martha leaned both elbows on the counter. "Look, I'm too old, too tired, and too underpaid by myself to referee a snowstorm romance or a homicide. So here are the options. You share the room, or one of you freezes in a vehicle. And if you two plan on killing each other, don't do it on the new sheets." Lily stared at her. Martha shrugged. "They're Egyptian cotton, allegedly." The box said luxury. "I have doubts." The man almost smiled. Lily did not. She had been driving for 9 hours, leaving behind a town, a broken engagement, and a version of herself who had spent too long apologizing for taking up space. She had promised herself she would never again ignore the small alarm bell inside her chest. And right now, that bell was ringing. A room with a stranger, a man, one bed. "No," she said. "Absolutely not." The man stepped back slightly, creating more distance between them. "I understand." That caught her off guard. Most men she had known did not understand the word no the first time. They treated it like a negotiation, a mood, a locked door they could open if they smiled long enough. But this man only nodded. Martha watched them both, then slid a key card across the counter. "Room 12. Heat works if you kick the unit gently. Don't kick it hard, it has emotional issues." Lily didn't move. The man picked up the key card and handed it to her, not touching her fingers. "You take it. And you?" "I'll ask if there's a chair in the lobby." Martha snorted. "There is. It squeaks like a haunted duck." He looked at Lily. "Then I'll take the haunted duck." Something in his seriousness almost made her laugh. Almost. But the wind howled again, and the lights flickered. Martha's expression softened. "Sweetheart," she said to Lily, "you don't have to trust him, but you do have to survive the night." Lily hated that those were not the same thing. 10 minutes later, she stood inside room 12, gripping her backpack strap like a weapon. The room was small and tired, with beige walls, a humming heater, one queen bed, one nightstand, one bathroom, and one wooden chair by the window. The man entered last and left the door open until Lily stepped farther inside. Then he closed it slowly, as if every movement needed her permission. "I'm Ethan," he said. "Lily, no last names." That felt safer. Ethan looked around the room once. He removed his coat, folded it neatly, and placed it over the back of the wooden chair. Then he took the extra pillow from the bed, set it on the chair, and dragged the chair toward the window. Lily stared at him. "What are you doing?" "Sleeping." "On that?" He glanced at the chair. "I've seen worse." The chair gave a small wooden creak, as if insulted by the comparison. Lily crossed her arms. "You don't have to perform, gentlemen. I'm not performing. You expect me to believe you're fine sleeping upright in a motel chair during a blizzard?" "No," he said. "I expect you to take the bed." The room went quiet. No flirtation, no smirk, no hidden bargain, just a statement. Lily looked at the bed, then at him. Her throat tightened in a way she hated. She had prepared for danger, pressure, charm, entitlement. She had not prepared for someone choosing discomfort so she could feel safe. Ethan sat down in the chair, adjusted the pillow behind his neck, and looked toward the window instead of at her. "You'll take the bed," he said. For a moment, Lily could not answer, because no one had ever made her safety sound that simple before. By morning, Ethan Mercer had discovered that dignity was much easier to maintain before sleeping in a motel chair. The chair had looked merely uncomfortable at midnight. By sunrise, it had become personal. His neck was stiff, one shoulder had gone numb, and his lower back seemed to have written a formal complaint to the rest of his body. He woke with his arms folded, his chin tilted at an unnatural angle, and the grim expression of a man who had lost an argument with furniture. Lily was already awake, sitting on the edge of the bed with both hands wrapped around a paper cup of motel coffee. She had not slept much at first. She had watched him, not in a romantic way, not at first, more like someone guarding a door from the inside. But Ethan had done nothing. He had not looked at her while she changed in the bathroom. He had not asked why she was alone on a mountain highway in a storm. He had not turned kindness into a debt. He had simply sat in that awful chair, facing the window, letting the room become safe one quiet minute at a time. When he finally tried to stand, his body resisted. Lily bit the inside of her cheek. "Don't laugh," he said without looking at her. "I'm not. You're spiritually laughing, a little." He took one step and winced. A knock came at the door before either of them could move. Martha stood outside with a tray of coffee, 2 muffins, and the deeply entertained expression of a woman who had lived long enough to enjoy other people's discomfort. She looked Ethan up and down. "Worth it?" Ethan placed one hand against the doorframe. "Ask my spine." Martha nodded solemnly. "The chair claims another victim." The snow had not stopped. By noon, the highway remained closed. By evening, the state troopers announced another night of delay. Cars sat buried in the parking lot like abandoned thoughts. The motel lobby became a temporary village of stranded travelers. Families with cranky children, truckers playing cards, one honeymooning couple who had already started arguing about windshield wipers. Lily and Ethan remained in room 12, learning the geography of a small space. He took the chair. She took the bed. They split the heater by silent treaty. She's used the bathroom first at night. He waited outside in the cold hall without making a show of it. When she left her backpack near the door, he stepped around it every time, never touching it. That mattered more than flowers would have. Lily noticed details against her will. Ethan folded his clothes with military precision. He cleaned up after himself immediately. He drank coffee as if it had disappointed him, but he respected its effort. He had a habit of checking his phone, frowning at the lack of service, then putting it away like a man pretending he was not relieved. He was not warm exactly, but he was careful and careful. Lily was beginning to understand. Could be its own kind of tenderness. On the second afternoon, the power flickered out for nearly 20 minutes. The heater died. The room cooled quickly. Ethan offered her his coat without drama. She refused. He placed it on the foot of the bed anyway and sat back down in the chair, looking at the dark window. That was when Lily spoke, not because she had planned to, but because silence had started feeling less like protection and more like loneliness. She told him she had been engaged, not the whole story, just the outline. His name was Caleb. He was charming in public, exacting in private. He corrected her clothes, her friends, her laugh, the way she held a fork at dinner with his parents. He never hit her. That had made leaving harder to explain. He only made her smaller, inch by inch, until one morning she looked at her wedding dress hanging on a closet door and felt like she was staring at a costume for a woman already dead. So she packed her car. She left the ring in a coffee mug. Then she drove west. Ethan, without interrupting, he did not rush to condemn Caleb, though anger moved through his face once and disappeared. He did not tell her she was brave, which would have made her uncomfortable. He did not ask why she had stayed so long, which would have made her hate him. He only said he was glad she kept driving. For some reason, that was the sentence that almost broke her. In return, Ethan offered very little of himself. He said he worked too much, that he had been married once, that some people could build a life so efficiently they forgot to live inside it. His voice carried no self-pity, only fatigue. Lily sensed there was more, a great deal more, but he did not owe her the parts of himself he was not ready to name. That night, the storm pressed against the motel walls, but room 12 felt different. Not safe because Ethan was strong, safe because he was restrained, safe because he did not make his goodness loud. Lily lay under the thin motel blanket, listening to the chair creak as Ethan shifted carefully by the window. For the first time in months, her body did not stay braced for danger. Her eyes closed. Sleep came softly, like something that had been waiting for permission. And by the time the snow buried the world a little deeper outside, Lily Brooks was sleeping as if no one was going to take anything from her in the dark. The storm finally loosened its grip on the third morning. Not enough to open the highway, but enough for the motel's Wi-Fi to return in weak, flickering bursts. That was how Lily found out. She was sitting cross-legged on the bed, trying to check road updates on her phone, when a headline loaded slowly beneath a weather alert. Mercer Freight CEO missing after Colorado storm delay. The photo appeared 1 pixel at a time. Dark hair, sharp suit-controlled expression, Ethan. Not motel chair Ethan. Not quiet stranger with bad coffee Ethan Mercer, CEO of Mercer Freight and Logistics. Lily stared at the screen as cold moved through her chest. She clicked another article, then another. Billionaire executive. High-profile divorce. Corporate expansion. Senate hearings. Labor disputes. Photos of him beside governors, investors, and a woman in a silver dress whose beauty looked expensive and exhausted. Lily looked across the room. Ethan stood near the window, checking the parking lot as if he were still just a stranded traveler waiting for the snowplow. "You're famous," she said. He turned. The silence that followed answered before he did. Lily held up the phone. "You're not just some guy stuck in a storm." "No," Ethan said quietly. "I'm not." The honesty came too late. That was what hurt. Lily stood from the bed, suddenly aware of the small room, the single bed, the 2 nights of trust carefully built in the dark. It all seemed different under the pale light of discovery. "You let me tell you about Caleb," she said. "About everything. And you didn't think maybe you should mention you're a billionaire CEO with reporters looking for you. I should have told you. But you didn't." "No." Her laugh was small and sharp. "At least you're consistent." Ethan absorbed that without defending himself. He looked tired in a way she had not noticed before. Not sleepy, not chair-sore, but worn down beneath the skin. "I didn't tell you because for 2 days you looked at me like a person," he said. "Not a headline. Not a bank account. Not a problem to solve or a man to use." Lily crossed her arms, hating that part of her understood. "And what did you think I was looking for? A rich man in a snowstorm? No, because I was looking for a safe room." "I know." "Do you?" The question stayed between them. Ethan lowered his gaze first. "I wanted to be treated normally," he said. "That doesn't excuse hiding it." Lily wanted anger to remain clean. It did not. Because the man in front of her had lied by omission, yes. But he had also spent 2 nights in a wooden chair so she could sleep without fear. He had listened without taking. He had made space without demanding entry. Both things were true. That was the problem. The Wi-Fi strengthened by late afternoon, and with it came more articles. Lily told herself not to read them. Then she read them anyway. The worst headline came from a business magazine profile written during his divorce. "The man who chose business over family." The article described Ethan's marriage to Caroline Voss, a former architect who had left her career after years of relocating for his company. It described missed anniversaries, private jets, emergency board calls during medical appointments. A miscarriage mentioned only once in a carefully worded paragraph that made Lily put the phone down. There were quotes from unnamed sources. "Brilliant remote, loyal to the company above all else. A man who always arrived after the damage was done." Lily looked at Ethan, and for the first time she wondered whether his restraint was kindness, or simply another form of absence. Maybe he had not pressured her because distance was easy for him. Maybe the chair had not been sacrifice. Maybe it was where he lived emotionally. That evening, room 12 felt smaller. Ethan no longer sat comfortably in the silence. Lily no longer trusted it. He tried once to explain the divorce, but stopped before beginning properly. There were things he clearly wanted to say, and things he believed he had no right to soften. "My wife deserved more than I gave her," he said at last. Lily waited. "That's the part I know is true. It was not enough, but it was not nothing." Outside, snow slid from the motel roof in heavy sheets. Inside, the distance between them grew with every unasked question. Lily took the bed again that night. Ethan took the chair. But something had changed. The first night, the chair had made her feel protected. Now it looked like a boundary. A place a man could sit and be decent without ever letting anyone close enough to know whether decency would last. Lily lay awake for a long time, staring at the ceiling. She had trusted charm once and nearly disappeared inside another person's life. Now she had trusted quietness. She did not know yet if that was wisdom or just a different mistake. By the 4th morning, the highway reopened. The announcement came through the motel lobby television, where a state trooper in a thick jacket warned drivers to move carefully and avoid unnecessary travel. Everyone ignored the unnecessary part. Within an hour, the motel transformed from temporary shelter back into a place people were eager to leave. Families dragged suitcases through slush. Truckers checked chains. The honeymooning couple reconciled just long enough to argue over who had lost the car keys. Martha stood behind the counter with a clipboard and the weary satisfaction of a woman who had survived both weather and humanity. "Chechikauchu is 11. If you stole towels, at least pretend to feel shame." Lily packed quickly, too quickly, Ethan noticed. She folded her clothes into her backpack with the practiced efficiency of someone who had left places before she was emotionally ready. Her face was calm but not peaceful. Room 12 felt strange in daylight, smaller, less magical, more like what it had always been. A cheap motel room with 1 bed, 1 chair, and too many things neither of them had said. Ethan stood near the window, no longer pretending to check the road. "You don't have to leave right away," he said. Lily zipped her backpack. "The highway is open." "That wasn't what I meant. I know." The answer landed gently, which somehow made it hurt more. Ethan wanted to ask where she was going. He wanted to offer help, a number, a ride, money, protection. All the things a man with resources place in front of a woman and call care. But he understood, finally, that those gifts could feel like walls if offered wrong, so he said nothing. That was when the television in the lobby grew louder. A reporter's voice cut through the hallway. Caroline Voss, ex-wife of Mercer Freight CEO Ethan Mercer, spoke publicly this morning for the first time since their divorce filings became national news. Lily froze. Ethan closed his eyes. Not because he feared the truth, because he knew truths could be edited into weapons. They walked into the lobby together without planning to. On the screen, Caroline Voss stood outside an airport, elegant and pale, answering questions she clearly wished would stop. Microphones pushed toward her face. A headline crawled beneath the footage. Caroline Voss breaks. Silence on Mercer divorce. Her voice was steady. But sadness moved under it. She did not call Ethan cruel. That might have been easier. She said he was generous with money and absent with time. She said he could solve a labor crisis across 3 states before breakfast, but forgot how to sit beside someone in a hospital room without checking his phone. She said loneliness inside a marriage could feel more humiliating than loneliness outside it. Then came the line that hollowed out the lobby. "I don't think Ethan meant to abandon me," Caroline said. "I think he just loved being needed by the world more than he loved being known at home." The room went silent. Even Martha stopped pretending to wipe the counter. Ethan did not move. Lily looked at him, and everything she had feared returned with new shape. Caleb had wanted to control every inch of her life. Ethan had not controlled her, but absence could also erase a person. A man could be gentle in a motel room and still devastating in a life. The online commentary began almost immediately. People in the lobby refreshed their phones. Clips spread. Headlines sharpened. Billionaire CEO's ex-wife reveals emotional abandonment. Was Ethan Mercer a better boss than husband? The chair gentleman has a past. That last one made Lily feel sick. Somehow their private room had become part of his public mythology. The chair. The storm. The mysterious woman. People were already turning decency into content. Ethan stepped away from the television. Lily followed him only as far as the hallway. "I should have told you more," he said. "Yes, I didn't want to drag you into this. But I'm in it now." He looked at her then, and she saw something raw beneath the controlled surface. Not the CEO. Not the headline. Just a man watching something fragile collapse because he had mistaken silence for protection. "I failed Caroline," he said. Lily held her backpack strapped tighter. "Did you love her?" "Yes." The answer came immediately. "That hurt too." Though Lily had no right to be hurt by it. "And it still wasn't enough," she said. "No, there it was. The truth neither of them knew how to survive." Lily thought of Caleb, how he had called possession love, how she had stayed because people said real love required work, how long it had taken her to understand that work did not mean disappearing. She looked at Ethan and feared another kind of disappearance, slower, quieter, more respectable. Beside him she might never be controlled, but she might always be waiting for a meeting to end, a call to finish, a crisis to pass, a man to come back from a life that needed him louder than she did. "I can't be someone's afterthought again," she said. "You wouldn't be. You don't know that." He had no answer. Because the worst thing about Caroline's words was that they had sounded fair. Lily nodded once, as if making a decision inside herself. Then she walked back to room 12. Ethan stayed in the hallway, giving her space because that was all he knew how to give well. By the time he returned, the room was empty. The bed was made. The bathroom light was off. Her coffee cup was gone from the nightstand. Only the spare pillow remained on the wooden chair, dented from 3 nights of his restless sleep. For a moment, Ethan did not understand. Then he saw the keycard on the dresser. No note, no goodbye. That was Lily's kindness, maybe, or her fear, maybe both. He went to the parking lot, but her small sedan had already pulled away, leaving 2 fading tracks in the slush. Ethan stood in the cold without his coat zipped, watching the road swallow her. The CEO in him knew what to do next. Call someone, search records, use license plate footage, locate her. The man in him understood he had no right. That realization hurt more than the loss itself. He had spent years believing love failed because he did not have enough time. Now he saw the deeper truth. Love had failed because he had treated presence like a gift he could schedule. With Lily, it had been different. Not because she was magical. Not because 3 snowbound nights could erase a lifetime of mistakes. But because beside her, sitting in that terrible chair, he had not been powerful. He had not been useful. He had not been needed by thousands of employees, investors, and executives. He had simply been a man trying not to make a frightened woman more afraid, and somehow, that had felt closer to peace than any boardroom victory he had ever won. Martha found him still standing there 10 minutes later. "She left," she said unnecessarily. Ethan nodded. Martha softened. "You going after her?" He looked toward the road. Every instinct said yes. Every lesson from the last 3 days said no. Not like this, he answered. Martha studied him for a moment, then gave a small approving grunt. Well, she said, that's either growth or hypothermia. Ethan almost smiled. But when he returned to room 12 to collect his things, the room no longer felt like shelter. It felt like evidence, a bed she had finally slept in, a chair he had chosen, a silence he had mistaken for honesty. And outside, somewhere beyond the thawing highway, Lily Brooks disappeared from his life before he could learn how to stay in hers. 3 months later, Ethan saw Lily again in a community center cafeteria in Denver. He almost missed her, not because she looked different, but because she looked more like herself. Her hair was tied back, her sleeves were rolled up. She stood beside a folding table stacked with donated coats, helping an elderly woman choose one with a working zipper. There was no fear in her posture, not gone completely maybe, but no longer driving. Ethan had come to the center for a Mercer Freight volunteer partnership. Since the divorce interview, he had stepped back from daily operations, delegated more, and started doing the one thing he had once considered inefficient. Showing up, not for cameras, not for crisis, just showing up. Lily noticed him across the room. For a moment neither moved, then she gave a small smile. Not an invitation, not a rejection, a beginning. They spoke outside near the entrance, where children were drawing chalk suns on the sidewalk despite the cold. Ethan did not ask why she left. Lily told him anyway. Caleb had not been a monster in the obvious ways. He bought flowers, opened doors, remembered birthdays. But he chose her clothes for important events, corrected her opinions in front of friends, tracked her location for safety, told her she was too sensitive whenever she felt herself shrinking. By the end, Lily had not been running from marriage. She had been running from ownership. Ethan listened, and this time her story landed somewhere deeper. Because he finally understood Caroline differently too. He had never controlled his wife, but he had left her alone inside a life built around him. He had not locked the door. He had simply never noticed she was standing outside it. That realization hurt without giving him anyone to blame. I thought absence was better than control, Ethan said quietly. Lily looked at him. It's not always better, he continued. Sometimes it just gives loneliness a nicer name. For the first time, Lily saw not the man from the headlines, and not the man from the chair, but someone trying to understand the damage he had caused without asking to be comforted for it. That mattered. They did not rush. They walked through the community center. Lily showed him the job board, the pantry, the little room where people could sit quietly when the world became too loud. Ethan donated nothing that day. No dramatic check. No public gesture. He just helped carry boxes until a teenager told him he stacked canned beans, like a divorced architect. Lily laughed so hard she had to turn away. When evening came, they stood beside the parking lot. This time, no storm trapped them, no motel forced them together. No single bed turned decency into a test. They were both free to leave. Ethan looked at her with careful hope. Can I take you to dinner? Lily studied him long enough to make him nervous. Then she smiled. Only if there's more than one chair. He laughed softly. There will be two, and no emotional furniture. I can't promise that. I have a history. She shook her head, still smiling. It was not happily ever after, not yet. Maybe not ever in the easy way people like to imagine. But Lily had learned that safety was not the absence of risk. It was the presence of choice. And Ethan had learned that love was not proven by grand sacrifice. Sometimes it began with a chair. Sometimes it returned with two. As they walked toward the small diner across the street, Ethan did not reach for her hand. Not until Lily reached first. And when she did, he held it gently, as if trust were not something to claim, but something to be invited into. Before you go, let me leave you with one question. If you had been Lily that night in the motel, would you have trusted Ethan? Or would you have walked away the moment you learned who he really was? Because sometimes the people who hurt us are easy to recognize. They're loud, controlling, demanding. But sometimes the deeper wounds come from people who never meant to hurt us at all. People who are kind yet absent, loving yet unavailable. Present in our lives, but never truly with us. And maybe that's what this story is really about. It's about the difference between feeling protected and feeling possessed, between being needed and being loved, between having someone in your life and having someone who is truly present. Ethan learned that money could buy comfort, but it couldn't buy connection. Lily learned that not every closed door is rejection. Sometimes it's the beginning of freedom. And both of them discovered something many of us spend years trying to understand. Real love doesn't ask you to become smaller. It gives you room to remain yourself. Now, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you think Lily was right to leave without saying goodbye? Share your perspective in the comments below. And if stories about love, healing make us humans speak to your heart, Don't forget to subscribe to Soul Stirring Stories and join us for the next journey. Until next time, take care of your heart, and remember, the right person won't make you choose between feeling safe and feeling free.